God, that this sucker already has a target on my back. It's a big move.
I honestly don't think Bobby's cell phone would have saved him. He'd get the message, we're on their hit list, get to the safe house now, and still decide, well, I'm already 10 feet from this amazing hobby train shop. What's 5 minutes? Classic Bobby logic. Who's gonna find me here? And then he strolls in and gets taken out anyway. He probably wouldn't even hear the damn phone ringing.
$10,000.
Man, Artie.
Oh, Charmaine, I don't think you know LOD's brother, Jean-Philippe.
Meanwhile, Jean-Philippe is back home like, I called you 5 times. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Is the answering machine broken?
He was at the safe house. We brought him over.
Makes you wonder if the shooters would have tailed him straight to the safe house instead. Then Tony and Polly come bursting out like the final scene of Scarface. Bazookas under each arm. Say hello to my little friend, plural.
You were at South Mountain Arena yesterday, trying to buy a gun from that asshole in the snack shop?
Who told you that?
Or maybe Bobby actually brings a gun for once and drops the hitters on the spot. He's supposed to be a marksman after all. But honestly, yeah, he was always the most optimistic idiot in that whole glorified crew. Rewatching Marco Polo, I couldn't help thinking that Artie Buco really did deserve better. Waking up hungover by the pool.
Artie Buco.
That's right.
He's still one of the few genuinely decent guys orbiting this world. Good looking, hardworking, and, for all his flaws, someone who actually tries to live a normal life. Imagine if Adriana Lacerva had bailed on Christopher Moltisanti for Artie. She would have ended up with a guy who adored her, instead of someone dragging her into a death spiral. And yeah, Artie ends the series with his own place, a smoking hot partner, and, most importantly, still breathing. That alone puts him ahead of half the cast.
She tells me he calls her every day.
But without Tony Soprano around, he's basically a walking target for Benny Fazio. And Artie definitely hasn't forgotten he's got a rifle if things ever get spicy. Still, the guy was messy. He didn't actually want to be with that woman. He backslid into the relationship when it became obvious the younger women weren't interested.
We're looking for Artie Buco.
That's me.
Actually, we're here to investigate some recent irregularities in charge activity here at Nuevo Vesuvio.
By the time we last see him, Vesuvio is struggling and his swagger is wearing thin. And let's be honest, for all his charm, Artie could be a creep, chasing younger women while pretending he was some culinary Casanova. I'm sure he treated Charmaine Buco like royalty, right up until she didn't fit his fantasy anymore. That's really the point of Artie.
Now listen, Artie's dinner business is nice, upscale people from the suburbs. Don't ruin his life.
He's the show's reminder that the mob corrupts even the normal people. He isn't a gangster, but the proximity gives him a contact high. Suddenly he's talking tough, posturing like he's made, trying to intimidate Christopher over Adriana, and spiraling into a suicide attempt after a French scammer embarrasses him.
I'm full of rage, Father.
He becomes a smaller, sadder version of what the life turns everyone into, people like Carmela Soprano's cousin included. Artie's a chump, sure, but he's also one of the show's most quietly tragic wins and losses, all at once.
So what do you want, Meadow?
I think she wants something from me.
In your dreams, Brendan.
Brendan hitting on Meadow in season 1 is wild when you look back at it. The girl's in high school, her last name is Soprano, and he's out here flirting like he's trying to speedrun a death wish.
Tell Brendan the hunter would rather die than go out with him.
Brendan?
What exactly was the plan if she had actually been into him? Tony finds out and what? Brendan just shrugs and accepts his burial spot? Between creeping on Meadow, jacking trucks nonstop, and dropping the great Kimosabi line about Jackie Aprile, Tony's closest friend, who's dying, this man stacked up bad decisions at Olympic speed. And the Kimosabi bit? Chrissy even laughed for a second before tossing Brendan around like fresh deli meat. It's incredible how clueless the guy was about the world he was operating in. It's like walking into a room with Johnny Sack and roasting his wife. There's no universe where that ends well.
Listen, Meadow wanted the crystal. If I didn't get it to her, she would have went down Jefferson Avenue.
Honestly, Brendan's whole arc feels like a crank-fueled sprint toward natural selection. Dude burned through his luck in 2.5 episodes. Sharp as a cue ball, hitting trucks like it was a hobby, talking reckless, and somehow thinking Meadow Soprano was fair game. Jackie Jr. had to work an entire season to reach that level of stupidity. Brendan did it in under 3 hours of screen time. Legendary efficiency.
I'm so ashamed.
Father Phil didn't survive because he was some holy, untouchable figure. He survived because he was useful. The guy spent half his time drifting through the houses of mob wives, oozing this vague, pseudo-intellectual, borderline creepy energy. But nobody laid a finger on him because the arrangement benefited everyone. The idea that they don't hit priests is a fairy tale anyway. Plenty have been killed in Italy, and even the mafia in New Orleans whacked one. Hell, the Genovese family had an actual made priest. So much for the sacred cow myth.
Father, turn it off. I can't handle it.
But in the Sopranos universe, a priest is basically the dude who keeps your wife calm while you're out cheating and reminds her God hates divorce. Why ruin that setup?
More. How do you think I feel having that priest around all the time?
Don't even go there, all right? Father is a spiritual mentor.
Tony himself keeps repeating how he's a strict Catholic, which conveniently makes Monsignor Jughead and Father Phil bulletproof. More importantly, killing a priest, especially one everyone in the neighborhood knows, would wreck Tony's whole image. He'd have to A, order a hit on a man of the cloth, B, admit he had beef with said priest, and C, risk the world finding out he did it because of a suspected affair with his wife. At that point, Tony's credibility and reputation don't just take a hit, they implode. So Father Phil stays alive not because he's holy, but because he's strategically inconvenient to kill. Tony never actually hit Carmela. For all the crimes he committed, and all the ways he was a walking disaster of a human being, physical violence toward his wife wasn't something he crossed into.
Tony, I will get a restraining order.
Come here. You're not going anywhere.
Let go of me.
At most, he shoved or grabbed her a couple of times, like in Chasing It, and he definitely threw his weight around, punching walls next to her head, screaming in her face, breaking things to make a point. That's still a form of abuse, even if he never landed a direct shot.
I had sex with that man.
Honestly, half the tension in scenes like Carmela's confession about Furio comes from expecting Tony to snap, and yet he stays at verbal nuclear instead of physical.
Hey, don't talk to my wife.
Even when they were separated and he knew divorce could cost him half his fortune, he never even drifted toward killing her, something a lesser man in that world might have at least contemplated. In that very narrow, very warped category, Tony Soprano was practically a saint.
And I'm sorry. Hey, the orange juice is fine. Whatever kind you want to get is fine.
Fuck the orange juice.
This is also the same guy who got his mistress tested for HIV and didn't so much as smack her when there was no smoked turkey or when the orange juice had too much pulp. A gentleman, if you're grading on a scale that only exists in North Jersey organized crime. Carmela never had a B on her, sure, but Tony absolutely manhandled her at times, and the financial and emotional leverage he held over her was a whole other layer of control. We also never saw the early years of their marriage, so who knows what that looked like, but based on what is on screen, he didn't strike her, but he did put hands on her more than once, and the threat of violence was always just under the surface.
I sat here dreading the end of the story would involve you erupting in some act of violence towards your nephew.
So yes, no punches thrown, but plenty of physical intimidation and enough wall punching to qualify as its own language. Commendatore is honestly one of the most rewatchable episodes in the entire series.
Look at this place. The mother country.
There's something so strangely idyllic about late 1990s Naples, this mix of grit and natural beauty crashing into each other. All carried by Andrea Bocelli's Conte Partirò running through the soundtrack. And the cultural clash angle is perfect.
Commendatore, you are already checked in.
Commendatore.
Full-blooded Italian mobsters encountering this miniature, slightly pathetic Jersey crew. Paulie alone makes the whole thing worthwhile. That self-satisfied grin on the drive back from the airport gets me every single time. It's one of the best standalone episodes too. You don't need much outside context to enjoy it. Chris coming along just to vanish into drugs and sex makes it even funnier.
Any time now, he was just going down to Corso to buy a gift for Adriana.
The guy waits until the airport on the way home to even think about a gift for Aid. Season 2 as a whole is a masterpiece, and this one is packed with quotable lines.
I'm gonna hoof it back to the Excelsior. I gotta take a wicked shit.
I gotta hoof it back to the Excelsior. I gotta take a wicked shit. Might be the crown jewel. And I swear, that old Italian woman on the balcony watching Tony drive in looks exactly like Livia. It always throws me into that weird thought spiral about how there aren't supposed to be two people on Earth who look the same, yet there she is. Polly's scenes are gold, the aesthetics and photography are gorgeous, and the local superstitions nailed it.
If your enemy comes into possession of your nail or your hair clippings, they can make the evil on you.
The mob lady burning her cut nails for the evil eye is exactly the kind of thing that really does happen. For a culture so steeped in power, the obsession with superstition is still everywhere. And if we're talking standalone masterpieces, Pine Barrens is right up there too. Pure Coen Brothers energy, start to finish. The proof Tony survives the cut to black is baked into the show long before the finale. Start with the 3:46 a.m. car ride with Christopher. Later, Tony heads to Las Vegas, finds Christopher's favorite stripper, hits an insane streak of luck.
When I was in Las Vegas, I took peyote.
Drops peyote, watches the sunrise, and suddenly yells, "I get it!" Go back to Christopher's near-death vision. His father telling him, "Tell Tony and Polly, 3 o'clock. Out in the desert, Tony finally pieces it together. 3 o'clock wasn't a literal direction. It was the universe telling him his fortunes turn once he cuts Christopher loose. And they do.
So Med and Patrick Parisi?
Right after Christopher's death, everything around Tony straightens out. Meadow gets engaged to Patrick Parisi and lines herself up for high-end lawyer money. Ajay drops the single mom girlfriend and somehow ends up dating a model while working a cushy job for little Carmine. That's not random. It's the aftershock of Tony's cosmic correction. The guy's luck stabilizes. And if his luck stabilizes, he doesn't die in the diner. Don't Stop Believin' isn't a funeral hymn. It's the thesis of his arc. Don't stop believing in Tony's survival, because the show's been telling you for years that he's nearly untouchable. But then there's the counter read.
I get it!
Tony's "I get it" isn't cosmic enlightenment. It's the moment he realizes he can do absolutely anything without feeling a shred of moral consequence. Meadow abandoning medicine to become a lawyer, effectively a mob lawyer, isn't triumph, it's surrender. AJ's recovery is just being bailed out by his father's criminal network instead of learning to stand on his own. None of these outcomes are optimistic. They're symptoms of the rot. The family's influence shrinks episode by episode. The world is closing in. The little guy is done. Also, can people stop calling Meadow a mob wife? Patrick Parisi is a lawyer, not a made guy, not an associate, not even mob adjacent beyond his last name. She wasn't marrying into the life. She was becoming part of its legal perimeter. Big difference. And honestly, if Tony did get whacked in that final scene, it would probably be for something stupid, like Meadow's parking job outside Holston's. Some psycho road rage freak walks in to yell at her, sees Tony sitting there with Carmela and AJ, and decides the whole klutzy bloodline needs consequences. Still, the survival theory holds water.
Like when I got shot.
Tony repeatedly dodges death in ways that should be statistically impossible. He takes a point-blank shot from Junior and walks away. He beats multiple indictments. Assassination attempts collapse by coincidence. A newsstand interruption here, a witness recanting there. He dreams his way into discovering Pussy is a rat. His mother dies before she can testify. Janice wipes out Richie before he can make a move. Cooperators around him drop dead or self-destruct. Ray's heart attack, Eugene's suicide. He wins a war against New York despite being outgunned.
'Cause I'm a good guy.
Pattern. Everything that should kill Tony fails. Over and over. He's karmically buoyant, and that kind of character doesn't die quietly in a Jersey diner. He survives, maybe even into old age, just like Carmine, drifting along while the world shrinks and the people around him drop like flies. It always struck me that Tony showed up with a shotgun for Tony B. Like, why that gun? And yeah, it probably was about making the death as fast and certain as possible. A shotgun gives you almost zero chance of missing, hits hard enough that there's no suffering, and you don't have to worry about traceable ballistics the way you do with a handgun. Honestly, I'm surprised shotguns don't pop up more often in The Sopranos. But most of the show is set in urban and suburban areas where you can't exactly tuck a long gun under your jacket. I mean, Bobby Bacala could have at least broken out the archery skills once, right?
So? What's the word on your cousin?
I think I know where he's held up.
But with Tony and Tony B, I think Tony just needed the cleanest, quickest solution. He didn't want to stand there listening to Tony B beg or crack one last joke about his weight. Those might have hit harder than the buckshot. A shotgun is one and done, no hesitation required. Chase also clearly wanted the dramatic punch of it, even if Tony B flying backwards was pure action movie physics.
is never gonna give up that fucking animal blundetto. An eye for an eye.
Phil being pissed makes perfect sense too. He didn't get to kill Tony B himself, and Tony basically gave him a mercy kill. From Phil's point of view, that was adding insult to injury.
My uncle's farm. Less than 100 miles from here.
And who knows, maybe Tony also figured that in a rural area, a shotgun blast blends in better. Fire a handgun out there, and people start looking around. Fire a shotgun, and half the neighbors assume it's deer season. Or maybe the shotgun was just sitting there, and Tony thought, good enough. Whatever the reason, it fits. Fast, certain, and over before Tony could lose his nerve. Subscribe for more sharp, no-nonsense deep dives into The Sopranos and the moments that hit harder on rewatch.